what I found happens is as you become more and more integrated post 1,000, and sometimes even before you get to 1,000, and then you get to 1,000, but ultimately what happens is you're just no longer caught up in thinking about whether the experience is this or that. Rather, it just is this constant just sense of it is what it is, and you're not analyzing it or thinking about it, and therefore it doesn't seem to be that great of a big of a deal. And I'm exactly where you're at, Norb, just so you know. It's almost like the final full stop. It's like you no longer even have to think about this stuff anymore. It's done. It's gone. You just are, and you're living your life, and whatever happens, happens. And it's no longer considered to be at all an event even. It's just your natural, spontaneous, authentic self. And it is a very much a higher vibration, in my opinion, because people that meet with you and connect with you are getting a vibration that's just way more authentic and real than you would get from just like the average person, walking on the street that's just still in duality. Whereas a person who is in non-duality, and I just think that in your case, from what you've just expressed, you just passed that. You just that kind of has dissolved itself into a very natural state of beingness, which almost seems like, oh my God, like, what are they talking about? A lot of the time, like, what are they on about? And that happens to me too. I often think to myself, goodness, I have to like remind myself, oh, how was that when that happened? And go back into my memory bank almost. Not to say that you don't have experiences. Of course you do. I'm sure you feel sometimes bliss, sometimes you do this, sometimes that, but it's just it's not an issue. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Absolutely.
But yet we exist in the world with our personalities, and it's so super helpful to actually know your Enneagram type, and to because no matter how awakened you are, you still have this personality. I'm still an 8. It doesn't matter whether I'm at 1,000 or at 580 or whatever, at 400. I'm an 8, and I have to deal in the world by being an 8 and figure out, I still have issues being an 8 because because 8s have issues. So 8s have a lot of issues. It's not easy being an 8, I got to tell you, Norb. Too spontaneous. It's so funny. It's like good. But again, an Enneagram class really helps people. Whether you're awakened or not awakened. But what I wanted to say to you, and what I said to Ramaji once, was how helpful it is. I tell students, for example, if I pick up there a person who's a 2 has tremendous difficulty awakening, because they constantly try and please everybody around them, and they're constantly absorbing everybody else's problems as if those problems are their own. Separating from that is so difficult. They'll have a much more difficult time than, let's say, somebody who's a 5, who is naturally so detached to awaken. Actually, 5s are common in my experience, as far as people who are interested in awakening and awaken pretty quickly. Kind of a 5 is a good Enneagram type for that. So Enneagrams, and then I will say to the student, I think you're a 2. Go check it out. Maybe you're a 2 with a wing 3, and then and I'll say to them, go read up about that or listen to a YouTube video about that, and that will really help their process, because when they recognize that, they're like, oh, I'm doing all this, and I can identify, and that helps. By knowing what you're doing, it's easier to kind of that awareness can dissolve that tendency within them. Norb, do you agree with that?
I agree completely. In fact, I mentor a couple people out of the Explorers course or the Finders course alumni, and I just said up front, you have to know your Enneagram, or else I won't work with it.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a shortcut to getting down to what the food is that they really look for their energy. Is the easiest way I can explain it.
Exactly, Norb. And you're a 5, right, Norb?
See, yes.
Yes. And what's your wing?
as near as I can tell, a 4, but it's not super strong. It used to be very strong, and now it's not.
Yeah, yeah. That's the same as Ramaji, you know, 5 wing 4.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
So, you know, I understand that for the people that are under your umbrella, under your wing, that it's easy for you to move into that protection place from the outside. But sometimes it's more kind, or less taking away their power, when it's just letting them have their own shit, I guess is one way to say it. That's about what comes up right now.
That's so helpful to me. It really, really is. Because that's something I've been working on for quite some time, actually, especially not only as a teacher, but as a mother.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I have the 3 teenagers, and it has been huge for me within this year, just really allowing them, as you say, to have their shit and not trying to fix everything for them. Because that's where I tend to, because again, I'm so much the mother. I'm so much want to have everyone's back, want to protect them. Because, you know, like as if they can't protect themselves. Of course they can, but that's not very empowering. Actually, and look, as far as being a mother is concerned, I've really come a long way in really allowing this to unfold for my kids. And as far as being, I think a teacher is concerned, well, I mean, I don't know if I like the word teacher at all, or whatever, maybe a friend, friend, equal, somebody who is, I think for me, the most important message, if you were to ask me what I'm hoping I'm getting across, is that there really is no hierarchy. There really is no one that is any more apt at understanding all this, being themselves, and listening to their own sense of knowingness, and not having to turn to a teacher. Am I doing the right thing? Is this experience an okay experience to be having? Do I need someone to validate this knowingness within me? Because naturally, as people, we seem to always think that, you know, okay, I'm awakened, but tell me what my LOC is, because I need to know what my LOC is. Otherwise, I'm not really awakened if somebody doesn't tell me. I know that is not the case. I know that when you awaken, you know that you've awakened. It's fundamentally a knowingness within you. And so my goal is to really get them to trust that inner knowingness. And I don't care how long that takes. That could be when they're getting them to 1,000, and then after that, getting them past their post 1,000 issues, and then even, you know, but eventually what starts to happen, and it's the most tremendous thing, when they really, really start to own this sense of certainty, of their own certainty in beingness, and their own force. It's their force that drives the universe. It's not separate to anybody or anything. It really is what we are. And you start to have certainty in that force. Life starts to unfold in ways that it's a miracle. And even when it doesn't, it still does, because it's okay. It somehow just is okay. But I just figure that what Ramaji and I do, because he's highly intellectual, and his ability to explain things from a very from that intellectual level is very advanced and fantastic. But I don't necessarily prefer that method of teaching for myself, only for me, because I don't like to think of it as a teaching. I like to be the teaching. So in other words, I like the contrast between him explaining and then my just being in a state of being. And a lot of times people have said to me, you know, what is your teaching? And they look at me like, you know, and I look at them and say, you know, I don't know, you know, and they said, you know what, you are the teaching. You just are yourself. Maybe that's an 8 thing, because we just are ourselves, however that
Yeah.
is in the moment.
Yeah. However it shows up.
However that shows up, it's very hard for me to hold back. You know, if I feel something, I'm going to express it. If I want to storm out the room, I'm going to go. I'm not second guessing what comes up in this thing, in this whatever this is. And that can be good or bad. I don't think it's going to work for everybody. It can piss people off and all that. But I think ultimately, when you get to the heart and soul of it all, and you begin to get me, it helps. You know, we can overcome that, I think. But again, maybe I'm wrong, you know, but I think time will start to prove how this all pans out, how it all begins to work. I mean, do you feel that Ramaji and I, it's a good team? I mean, there's a lot of comfort between he and I.
I think it's a fantastic team. And
Yeah.
part of the reason is because he can put the concepts or for lack of a better word, I'll just say that the teachings or the point of view into understandable terms.
Yes.
Where you're down to earth living it. And yeah. I'm not saying he's not living it, but in terms of what people need to hear, they're getting the balance of the theoretical or the imagination or the image, and then they're getting somebody who's saying, and here's what it looks like from my point of view, and I accept your point of view.
Yes.
My sense is that at some point we're a package deal, and at some point we either drop the shit about that package is not okay when we see it in other people, or we say, you know, that's just the way they work.
Exactly. That's the beauty. That, you know, we all have our personalities and our funkiness.
Yeah.
And you know what? It doesn't matter how evolved we are. I'm still going to be an 8, and you're still going to be a 5. That means you're still going to analyze, and that's your nature. And we have our nature, and however that plays out is actually okay. Yeah. You know, and obviously we overcome, like an 8 becomes more of a 2. And I have found that with myself, Norb. I find that I'm just like, I have my level of compassion since my own awakening to now. Well, my awakening, by the way, was very spontaneous. It was in 2014. Wow. It was a shock that actually, honestly, one of the greatest shocks for somebody like me, because I was a very different person beforehand, in that I was a very conventional, caught up a little bit in the material, being a mom, shopping at Neiman Marcus, and literally within, I would say, 6 months of sudden awakenings, it shifted to just almost that stuff. I dissolved everything about what started to matter, and what I thought mattered and what I thought was important. Dissolved, and I wasn't in a community where I knew many seekers. I was a seeker, but I was almost like the loneliest seeker you could ever know. I was in such a lonely place, because then all of a sudden I felt, am I the only person on earth, or in this community, or within the people that I know, that is going through this? And then I went through a rage, because I recognized that every belief, every concept, everything that I built my entire existence around was completely meaningless and meant nothing, and was all just in my head. Yep. And then I just raged it out for a long while, which is in a sense, it is a form of self-inquiry. You know, I used to write down, this, and burn it in the fire. This is a belief. That's a thought. And there was nothing left. Nothing. Literally nothing was left at the end of this whole thing. So, and that's when I went on what I call my stalking guru hunt. So then I became determined to meet somebody who was really awakened. I don't know if you know the story. And so I spent a couple of years making sure that I met face to face and had a cup of coffee with who I believed, from watching certain satsangs and reading certain books, were awakened people, from the energy I got from the writing or the satsang, one of which was Rupert Spira. So I made sure that I was at an event. I had a cup of coffee with him. I had a long discussion with him. Deepak Chopra, I made sure we met one-on-one. I could sit down with him. It's amazing what an 8 can do when it wants something. You know, you like,
incredible.
You know, it's not good enough. I'm not just going to come and sit in one of your, like, be in the group. I want to meet with you. I want to sit with you. I want to know you. And then after quite a few of these people, Neil Donald Walsh, who is, by the way, fantastic. I don't know if he's at 1,000 or not. I think he is, but maybe Ramaji would argue with me. And anyway, a couple of them. And then I still felt that there was something, they were there, but I don't know, I don't know, there was something missing from the exchange with them. Although they were long exchanges and wonderful exchanges, and they gave me a lot of good advice, and, you know, we really connected. But then I remembered, I read a book by an author, or a couple of books back in the day, maybe a few years ago. And I remember this particular person lived in San Diego, which means this is my hometown. I forgot what his name was. I forgot all about what he did, but something made me remember that he lived in San Diego, and that somehow I need to go back and look for him. So of course I go back into my thousands of books, finally find the book 1,000, or one of them, whichever one it was, find him. And then I decide now I have to meet with him. So I pay him via Skype for the session, but I didn't know that the Skype session was $150. And I knew that I had to make, of course, a very big 8 impression. I had to meet him. So I paid the $300. And then I insisted that I don't Skype, because Skype is like one thing. I wanted to meet him. I wanted a face-to-face meeting.
That is so 8-like. I mean, that is so fantastic. It's like, no, I'm getting my way with this.
Getting my way. Yeah. And Ramaji at the time had just moved to Alpine. And he said to me, listen, you know, most of my students are very happy to meet with me on Skype. Would you mind meeting with me on Skype? I've just moved to Alpine, you know. And I said, well, actually, yeah, I do mind. It's not quite how I do things. I'd really like to come to Alpine and meet with you face to face and have a session with you face to face. And, you know, a couple of days later, he's like, well, you know, everything's in a big mess, and, you know, I've got my boxes all over the house. I said, I don't care if there's mess, you know, let's just do this. And he was like, okay. And he gave me directions, you know, and that was when I met with him. And it was an instant recognition that I knew when I walked into that home. And this was before anything else transpired between us. Norb, it was the strangest thing. But I knew I was going to work with him. I knew I was going to work with him, and I knew that somehow we were going to do something together, even before he had a clue. You know, because of course he's a 5, so you had to go through all the analytical and the, like, what is she on? And I told him a few days later, listen, I need to work with you. And he's like, oh my God, you know. She's like the most high maintenance student I've ever had in my life. She's not just happy to awaken at 1,000. You know, that took very quick. Now she wants to work with me. So he said, well, maybe you can start. I'm an artist. I like to paint. So maybe you can illustrate for my books. And I'm like, no. But I humored him for a while. I did a few illustrations, and then I just started to give him the hardest time. No, I'm not. And he didn't know what to do. How do I handle this person? And that's how it all began. And slowly but surely he came to know. I mean, one of the first things he did say to me was, you are very able to express this very well and be it. And so you're a natural teacher. And so once he realized he could trust me and we could do this together, and actually it may benefit his business too, because, you know, having the feminine and the male and the female, a lot of women sometimes just prefer chicks, you know, and guys prefer guys. Yeah, I mean, and so that's how it that's what's been going on. Eights seem very confident and very like they always know what they're doing. But the truth is, inside, we very much the baby, the innocent baby who just really wants someone to put their arms around them and say, you know what, you're okay, we love you. So that's probably what you sense with me, that need for me to just be accepted, like people to say, they don't have to say I'm good at it, but they can just say, appreciate the fact that I really want what's best for them, you know, love them. I love them.
And that's one of the things I was just about to say, is what comes through is I care about you and I will give you my very best.
Yes.
Without hesitation, no matter, and without a bunch of consideration. It's like, this is what comes up in me. It's all about my love for you, and I'm going to give it to you, period.
Period.
Yeah.
If anything, hopefully activated within your own love, which I know you are. And if I can activate that within a person, and that's where I find I've had the most success, maybe you could say, because sometimes the people that I give RASA to, when it's one-on-one, or the students that we sometimes get a little bit stuck, then when that feeling activates within them after a short conversation with them, and they actually, something happens, I don't know what it is, but they sense that feeling of love. They sense they're accepted and loved. And that is like what something unfolds, and that precipitates their awakening, you know, somehow. And that's where my success has been.
Anybody that you come to one-on-one,
yes,
and that doesn't trigger you into some sort of a negative reaction, they're going to bond with you. They're going to merge with you because you're open to it, and you're giving, and they're going to have that sense. So the one-on-one is one of your most powerful tools for you.
Yes, it is. I think so. Yes. And also within the group, again, it's difficult because you're dealing with so many people on different levels. But I think ultimately the RASA is the key. It really doesn't matter what we say.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't.
It really doesn't. I mean, so it's like, you know, it's almost like we're wasting a little bit of time and saying all this stuff. But, you know, people need to hear the words and whatever. But then we give the RASA, and I think that is the most important thing of all. It really is.
It is, but also I don't discount the fact that people have a chance to express, and they have a chance to express what isn't for them is in the deepest part, and that to have that kind of an audience that you can speak that truthfully in, that's a really big deal for everybody. And even if you and Ramaji weren't facilitating, it's like they have that spot to be heard. Yeah. And I think buried within all of us is that, now let me say it a different way. Buried within me is the desire to be heard, and feeling more worthwhile when I am inside, like there's a more concrete place.
Norb, are you sensing from all these teachings that you've been a part of? You know, one of the things I sensed when maybe it was post-awakening, and it occurs to me very often, is how much bullshit is attached to this particular area of spirituality in itself. The various teachers, how people are so caught up in thinking that there is a state that they need to attain, because the teachers that come on seem to be in this state that they seem to think that they will never be able to reach. And sadly, it's such a contradiction. It's such a paradox, because what the teachers are trying to do is what they should be trying to do is make it very clear that the state is actually, it's a universal state that is honestly available and there all the time for everybody. There is no a little I who is any less awakened than you. Only you think that you're less awakened than me. And that's the only problem. So in a sense, what I would like to do is demystify the entire thing. Do you think I can do that in my lifetime, Norb? Call out the bullshit.
You've done it for yourself. Of course you can do it for other people if they're open.
Yeah. For me, that's a really big thing. Something that's what motivates me more than anything else. Because so many people are just so stuck in that loop.
Yeah.
It's still out there. It's not over here. It's out there, and somehow they have something that I don't have. Somehow I can't possibly be a Buddha. I cannot possibly be a Jesus, you know? And that was the whole teaching. You are already a Buddha and you're already a Jesus.
Well, for a lot of people, and myself included, it was a big step to actually claim that I was, and for lack of a better word, I'll use aware, but to really claim it in terms of there's nothing else, you know, it's all, this is all there is. And then to go through that stage of shit, I didn't want it this way. I didn't want to be responsible for the meaning of everything.
Yes.
But there it was. And it, you know, took me a little bit of time to to adjust to that. And it took me a longer time to actually claim it in public, to actually claim it beyond just myself.
Yes, me too. It was my biggest issue. I was very hesitant, felt absolutely no need. Ramaji had to really push me. Even though I'm an 8, funnily enough, I'm very private, funny. Very difficult for me to do this. Spiritually secretive, spiritually not wanting to really be out there and saying anything because there's really nothing to say. You know?
Yeah, there's that.
There's that as well. So, but yeah, I think that ultimately, as long as they're seekers, there'll always be teachers.
Yeah.
Until people awaken. So, and then when they do, you know, then their process is really coming to terms with all that and hopefully helping others. Because you're only ever helping yourself, Norb.
Really?
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah. Who are you really helping? Is there anybody really out there other than self? So, you know, the other thing that is so beautiful about this teaching, and I'll share it with you, I don't know why I feel like sharing it with you, is that just how precious that is. Because when you recognize that everybody is, in a sense, God and the source energy, you know, if people really on the planet really got that, just imagine how much reverence, love, respect you would give your fellow human being.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, it hits home to it at a certain level, but then as the awareness really starts to penetrate your being, you recognize everybody you're meeting as fundamentally being no different to you. Really, that everything is that. So it's like, it's unbelievable. You know, how can you possibly treat somebody badly? Although we still do, because we have the personality and we still have the issues and we get annoyed, but it's just that intrinsic knowing who they are and knowing their potential and just loving them, because you just do. How can you not love God?